The tea is exceptionally good today. Who made this? Very delicious. Hold on.
So yeah, I'm gonna need Meg and Klay to come on to the front of the classroom because we got some things to discuss. Now, around December, I had did a video on y'all, and I told these good people that y'all had what it took to go ahead and make it through that commitment check. Yeah, and Klay, by you buying houses and cars, I just knew that you was ready. But one thing that those transits is going to do is it's going to call it out every single time. That's right, Cosmic Cousins. We are going to review over the charts of Meg and Klay, as well as go over the transits that happened that very day, okay? Now, before I get too deep into this tea, because you know it's piping hot, baby, we got to go ahead and hit that like. We got to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of this cosmic tea that I want to sip with you. Now, y'all know, Cosmic Cousins, I had to take a moment to review over their placements, to review over the transits that day, and definitely review over the video that I had did prior to, and see the things that I had said. I promise, when I get to recording, baby, I'll be in the zone, okay? But nevertheless, I got my notes, and we're going to get straight into it, Cosmic Cousins, because now, if you had taken the time to watch the Meg Klay Rebirth and Commitment Check video that's already up on my channel, first of all, thank you. Secondly, you know that I was pretty optimistic about their connection, especially when Klay brought her that house and that car. I mean, I looked at all those Capricorn placements in his chart and thought to myself, okay, he putting it down. He putting down the roots, okay? They're pretty much locked in. But y'all remember what else I said in that same video? And there was a reason why I specifically named that video The Commitment Check, okay? I knew that their charts in 2026 were going to be, taking some massive hits, basically. Those outer bound planets don't move often, but when they do, baby, they do. And they've been on the move. A lot of them, all of them, as a matter of fact, have been transiting into different signs. Now, a lot of these outer bound planets affect their chart directly, their personal planets. One of my biggest warnings was that they need strict boundaries. I did warn about the potential of the delusion. Okay, I did say that Neptune comes with a warning label, okay? I was a little scared that maybe they were living in the illusion and the fantasy of it all, and maybe there wasn't a lot of realism with, Neptune being involved. She can do that sometimes. She lies to you, she lies to herself. I mean, it's just what it is. And I also did mention that, arguments would tend to get heated between them just because of how their placements sit. Now, let's go on ahead and look at their placements again. Now, in the prior video, I didn't put their rising signs in there, but we definitely going to do it for this one because I feel like it plays a major part, especially on Meg's end, because she's a Taurus rising, baby. And when we get into that sun, she's an Aquarius sun. Her moon is in Leo at the 28th degree, and that is very important, okay, for this video. Now, Mercury sits in Aquarius. Her Venus sits in Capricorn. Her Mars is in Leo as well. Her Jupiter is in Sagittarius. She has a Saturn in Pisces. She has a Uranus in Capricorn also at the 28th degree. And her Pluto is in Sagittarius. Now her Neptune is in Capricorn, as well as her North Node is in Scorpio. Now, we are going to go ahead and throw in her Chiron, which is in Virgo, and her Lilith, which is in Gemini. Now, that is the rundown of Meg's placements. However, when we get into Meg's housing system, I did notice that her 4th house in Cancer is at the 29th degree, as well as her 10th house in Capricorn is also at the 29th degree. Now, these are their home houses, so these are some very powerful and potent placements, okay? That being said, let's go on and take a look at Klay's placements, revisit his chart for a minute. With Klay, he has a matching sun of Meg's as an Aquarius, and he also has a matching moon, which is Leo. Now, this is where I was a little thrown off and a little staggered and thrown off by, because his Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all sit in Capricorn. That is crazy, okay? Now, with that being said, his Jupiter is in Cancer, as well as his Chiron is also in Cancer. And then he has a Pluto in Scorpio, and his Lilith sits in Scorpio. And he has an Aquarius North Node. So those are all of Klay's placements. So as you can see, Meg has an extremely powerful, very dominant chart. Okay, why I feel like a lot of men be low-key hating on her. Don't like it when your energy feels more dominant than theirs. And baby, she can't help it. She just is who she is. Step your game up. That's the problem. I was completely disgusted by all of these men literally celebrating they breakup. Like, damn, are you trying to be next? What is going on? And I don't like to feel like I'm attacking men's sexuality, but a lot of y'all, when y'all do that, y'all don't know how that comes off. It really does come off like a man who's just been sitting around waiting their turn for somebody to break up. Like, it really does give that. Y'all need to chill out. Y'all need to relax with that. Someone else's pain should not bring you that much joy. And I'm really just gonna hold my tongue, because I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and lay in the bed that you're laying and making for yourselves. Meg has some incredibly potent ass energy. So y'all keep on playing with her if you want to. Y'all about to see. Klay about to see too. Now, with that being said though, Klay definitely has powerful energy as well. So I really thought that he would be a nice fit for Meg, because it definitely takes someone with the type of placements that he has to be able to handle the type of energy that she has, to where she can slip into her feminine energy. That's why you were able to see Meg doing things like cooking and being that lover girl, because she was finally able to relax in her femininity with someone like that. But Klay decided that he wanted to go ahead and fail the test. He cheated. The boundaries were crossed and the illusion was shattered. But honestly, this information could have been found out at any time. So what makes this day in particular the day where the cosmos said, you know what, we just ain't going to do this no more? Well, first off, the moon was in Leo, and both of their moons happen to be in Leo. Now, one thing that I did notice about Meg's chart is her moon is at the 28th degree, okay? And her Leo moon also sits in her 5th house in her housing system. Now, this is actually pretty critical, because that means that her birth was a full moon birth, but his was too. Whenever you have the sun in Aquarius and the moon in Leo, it is in direct opposition. A lot of people who are born under this lunar phase actually experience complicated relationship matters. A lot, actually. It's a heightened sense of drama in this area. Think about it. Leo is the stage. It's dramatic. It is where we get our actors and our actresses, you know. Now, by both of them having this, they have to constantly balance their need for detachment with that Aquarian group mindset, you know, with that Leo need for personal standout validation, you know. Now, by Meg's being paired with her Mars as well in her 5th house, just amplifies it for her. Now, this also makes her incredibly bold, charismatic, and just that overall good vibe that we see. About that Mars and Leo, though, is that it was at retrograde at the time of her birth. Give her this internal struggle with assertiveness. This type of placement can also make you second guess how you assert yourself or how you express yourself. Because of the fact that Meg has that Venus in Capricorn, I already know that made her feel so safe and so secure, especially the way that he was putting down roots. He's having her around the family. Capricorn placements are not quick to move and do things like that. Like, are certain placements that will do that in a heartbeat and not think nothing of it. Capricorn placements are not one of those. So I'm sure this is probably what makes this betrayal even 10 times worse for her. I mean, because even if they weren't getting along here and there and having some arguments here and there, I honestly believe that probably felt like it wasn't anything that they couldn't work through. I told y'all with Capricorn energy, they tend to take their time. They don't jump into anything unless it feels secure or foundational. Klay's chart being so Capricorn heavy, I am positive that this was the allure for him and her matching up, as well as Klay is a Cancer rising. So that means that Capricorn also sits in his 7th house, which is that house of relationships and partnerships. When you see those placements pulling out their checkbook, buying homes and cars, I mean, they definitely will buy you something, but a home, a car, child, I don't know. That was deep. This is what you call traditional material stability. This is all Capricorn energy. Capricorn wants to build that empire. So on paper and to the public, it definitely looked like he was building that fortress for Meg. But here's where some of the astrological red flags come up that we talked about. Yes, Venus is how he loves, and his Mars is how he takes action, and his sex drive, right? And these are in Capricorn, but they are sitting right next beside Uranus and Neptune, baby. Yes, indeed, it is. You know how Uranus gets down over here. It's that planet of sudden shock, rebellion, and instability, okay? It likes to just tear shit up just because, okay? Just because it's a Tuesday. And they was incredibly bored, okay? It was nothing else to do but just go ahead and cause some chaos. That is Uranus, all right? Now, Neptune is the planet of illusions, secrets, and those smoke and mirrors. So while that material side of that Capricorn was buying the house and playing that traditional provider role, Neptune was creating that total facade. The house was a literal distraction. It was to us all. You got me too, Klay. And I know a lot of people was like, well, he's a basketball player. What do you expect? Listen, there are some basketball players that are faithful, okay? And I was not aware of Klay's game on and off the court, okay? I didn't know his lineup before. I didn't know that there was a Coco Jones before there was a Meg the Stallion in his life. Sure, I knew he dated before, but I mean, I didn't know he had a fleet of bad ones like that. And I mean, like, when I say bad ones, I mean like bad to the bone, yes, serving all day. But nevertheless, it was an illusion of the commitment, and it masked that unpredictability that deceptive actions of that Uranus-Neptune combo can sometimes have. Child, he used that Capricorn structure to build a wall, not to protect that relationship, but to hide what he was really doing behind the scenes. And this is why I said about those strict boundaries, like any smell, any hint, or just a whiff of any of the bullshit, yeah, you got to put it down and make sure that you let them know that, no, we not playing this, okay? So when you have that Mars and Neptune conjunction in the house of partnerships, the actions do not always match the reality. Absolutely, the structure was there, but the foundation was completely hollow. As a matter of fact, shout out to Geek Girl, because she even pointed out with that Mars and that Neptune combo that could sometimes lead to a sex addiction. And baby girl, you ain't never lied with that one. Because that's exactly what it can lead to if there aren't any boundaries or any foundation set up. But lessons were learned, because this really highlights how material investments was really a smokescreen for deceptions. And sometimes it can be like that. Before we move on from that Capricorn energy, one of the things that I did want to point out was she had mentioned about him being temperamental and a lot of the things that she was taking off of him when it came to that. Well, you know, his Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Now, in my earlier video, I did see that Klay's chart was moving towards a different area as far as his career. With Pluto being in his sun, this does mean that it is opposing his moon. Now, I'm looking at it as it's going to be a comfortable transition for him. However, if a lot of these transitions feels like they were deflating his ego, which happens to be in his moon, then that will activate his emotions, okay? With that being said, once your emotions have been activated, your Mars kicks in, because it's your Mars job to protect that moon. By that Mars being in an exalted position, especially if he's starting from an emotional point of ego, it can definitely get ugly. That's why I was saying, like, I knew, like, when they had these, arguments and stuff, and it was going to get down with the get down, okay? I'll never just bring stuff up for no reason. See it in the chart, it has to be addressed, okay? Now, once that ego has been deflated in some type of way, that Mars has to do something in order to, match up that energy or do something to make itself feel better. When it comes to that, you do have a conjunction with Venus and Mars in Capricorn that suggests that romantic and those sexual desires are channeled through the lens of achievement, status, and material provision. So in other words, if he is feeling like his ego is deflated, then he will easily go and collect or conquer, if you will, a whole nother woman just for that ego to feel better. There has to be some type of achievement that is made, and it comes in the form of a woman, then so be it. Okay, that's how he feels. I mean, it really is one of them I still got it type of ninjas. Okay, let me stop. Let me keep my personals out of it. But nevertheless, that's what it gives. Okay. Now, another thing about that Capricorn energy, because both of their Venuses are in Capricorn. A Capricorn Venus views their relationships or any type of partnerships as a contracted type of situation. And so they are incredibly big on long-term stability. But this is definitely another reason why I was thinking that this was going to be a settled relationship for a while, because with a Capricorn Venus, when they purchase a home, that's actually more of a commitment for them. Like a mortgage is more of a commitment than a marriage certificate. Like, just being all the way real. But at the same time, Capricorn energy can also be very calculating and cold. And by Klay's Saturn also being affected by that Capricorn energy and his Pluto being home in Scorpio, with all of that energy, if he tried to assert his authoritarian type of energy onto Meg, which I actually talked about this prior to as well, she definitely is not trying to go for that, okay? Meg is a whole Taurus risings, as well as her having a Leo in Mars, okay? That is a very dominant placement for Mars. I can tell she definitely tried to play the game, but her independent was always going to be non-negotiable. Now, honestly, I'm kind of tripping that he did that, because by that much Saturn energy being on both of them, because see, Saturn is not just about the karma of other people, it's also your karma. So you're very much held accountable for all of the things that you do. And we already seen Meg's record, okay? Especially because of the fact that when it comes to Meg's housing system, her 10th house is in Capricorn at the 29th degree. That 29th degree is a fated degree. And as a matter of fact, it had an awful lot to do with how we got here today. Let's stick a pin in that and get back to that in a minute. But his Mars being exalted in Capricorn energy and her 10th house being maxed out at that 29th degree, as well as her being just a Taurus rising and having that Leo Mars, there was bound to be some power struggles. My hope was that Klay's energy was just not too immature and that he would not allow his ego to get in the way. But, okay, well, here we are. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about that Leo energy, which happens to fall in both of their moons, which the day that all of this went down, the moon was in Leo. Now, with that being said, Meg's Leo moon specifically is in the 28th degree. Now, as soon as I heard the news, you better believe I went on ahead and checked the transits for the day. And I even got a screenshot of what the sky was doing at that very moment when I found out that all of this was going down. That being said, as you can see, that moon was sitting at the 28th degree at the time when I did the screenshot. This was not too long after that post that Meg had dropped, which leads me to believe that that post was incredibly emotionally motivated and she was just maxed out. With her Mars being involved, Meg is not just the type of person that gets emotionally triggered and just going about her business. I told y'all before that Mars is just naturally set up to protect our emotions. It's very much sun influenced. Now, with that being said, by her moon and her Mars both being matching in Leo and this being a fire sign, Once she is emotionally triggered, it's very hard for her to calm down. Now, with her Mercury being in Aquarius, she's not always going to say the things that you feel like she should say. She's very vocally free. So like even if you tell her to be quiet, she's going to say no just because you told her to. That's the type of energy that gives. Now, with that being said, Leo energy is the sister sign to Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Now, with that being said, that very day, Uranus was on its very last day of that Taurus energy at that 29th degree. Once again, that 29th degree coming into play. 29th degree actually activated not only the Mercury, but also the Sun, because they are Uranus ruled, and Uranus was on the move that day. Now, of course, this energy is not only going to affect Meg, but it's going to affect Klay too, because his energy is also in his Sun and in his North Node. So with that being said, by Uranus being on the moon, this kind of woke up Pluto. Okay, she was chilling over there because you know she's been chilling with Aquarius this whole time, and we already know what Pluto came to do. Okay, she came to check them foundations. She want to know how strong everything is. Is it sealed in stone? Is this concrete or is this a facade? Pluto needs answers. Now, of course, Pluto has been here, so that's nothing new. However, on this particular day, the moon activated that opposition within Pluto. And that sun is just going to illuminate anything and bring it to light. Now, addition to that moon being illuminated within its opposition, we have also that Uranus in the 29th degree in Taurus exactly square Meg's moon in the 28th degree in Leo. This is that shake-up point. We're talking about rude awakenings. Now, this is when the facade was completely shattered at this moment. And keep in mind that Uranus is moving into a communicative sign like Gemini. Loves to spill all the tea and every single secret is going to come to light. Uranus is going to disrupt any type of security or stability that Taurus has ever depended on. Since this energy is in Meg's rising sign, this energy, of course, is going to be a critical energy that is going to affect her entire chart. That transit literally changed the whole trajectory of where she was going and what her foundation looks like. In addition, this Uranus in Taurus was also square her Uranus in Capricorn at the 28th degree. That foundation of that Capricorn energy that they had, that they were building upon, was built on seeking sand. So Uranus had to really just go ahead and tear it up. Now, this has definitely been in the works for the simple fact that Capricorn energy is represented by Saturn, of course. And we know both Saturn and Neptune have both been on the move. They moved over to Aries in February. And I can guarantee when Neptune moved over to Aries, this definitely started dissolving that Capricorn lie of all of this false foundation. And this energy could also have activated a lot of selfish decision making within Klay, seeing as how he has all of those Capricorn placements. See, you can't just look at the actual zodiac sign. Even though you want to look at that, you also want to look at the home planet of that sign and see what that home planet is doing. That's going to play a big role in how certain things will play out. Now, because of the fact that Uranus is such a rebellious planet and it's moving over to Gemini, it's definitely prime for Meg's black moon to just resurface. Lilith was on the move, okay? Because Meg's Lilith is in Gemini. This is why she did not hesitate to call Klay out, let him know publicly that he wasn't shit. With all of that Aquarius energy that Meg has, she's already has a rebellious spirit about herself. But oftentimes she has to always question whether or not she said the wrong thing. Especially with a lot of the ridicule that she gets, it can cause a lot of anxiety. She's openly talked about. But that day, Lilith definitely had her back and was not playing any games, okay? Lilith was in the sister sign Sagittarius that day. Because of the fact that Taurus was in that 29th degree, of course it's going to activate anything 29th degree in her chart. And if we're going to be looking at the 29th degree, then that means we're going to be looking at her housing system for the most part. Now, with that being said, we have that 4th and 10th house axis that is at that 29th degree, which is that crisis point. This almost gives her a sense of urgency when it comes to home and family, and also the need and the want to build that empire. That being said, most of the placements that was affected that day came from that 4th and 10th house axis. About her moon, which was in Leo, we talked about that. And we definitely talked about that Venus Capricorn. Now, when we're talking about that axis, we are talking about that safety, security, and foundation. These are things that are urgent for her. At 29th degree, kind of highlighting that area. The universe definitely needed Meg to know that this ain't it, girl. This ain't it. Having a 29th degree on an axis like this can honestly sometimes be menacing to the spirit if you are not grounded. You do not have your firm boundaries to make sure that you are protecting your energy. This is a destiny point, and it always makes her feel like this is what she's supposed to have, but she doesn't have it. With the 4th house representing family, it just, makes me sad because of the fact that she is alone. Both of her parents are gone. Her grandmother is gone. So beginning her own family is really, really a big deal for Meg. Now, no doubt, she definitely wants to enjoy her success. However, there is a strong urgency and a strong need that she's always had in her spirit that feels like it's more of her destiny to not only make sure that she has a strong career, but also a strong family and a home front. Like, this is what she's doing it for, her legacy. And when you have that type of passion, you don't want to feel like you're putting in all this work for nothing. Now, just really quickly looking at Klay's chart, when I look at his housing system, I look at his 12th house, which would be in Gemini, as well as his 11th house, which would be in Taurus. So 11th house, once again, is that Uranus house. So it's going to destroy, tear down anything that is not foundational while it's sitting at that 29th degree. And by Gemini being in that 12th house, it's going to make sure that it tells every single secret that is in that 12th house before it even gets over into Uranus. Now, in addition, that 12th house also represents ending cycles. So by Uranus stepping into Gemini is that energy of his secret houses and that self-saboteur. That energy was definitely destined to just come out in the forefront that very day. Okay. When I say the universe knows what they're doing, projection really do be protection. So before, when I had did their charts, I had made a comment about Klay possibly being Meg's Saturn reward because she had just exited out of her Saturn return in Pisces. Now that I'm thinking about it, that nigga was her final exam. Okay. Now, in the title of the original video, I had named it Meg Klay's Rebirth, as well as the commitment check, right? Well, this is definitely Meg's rebirth, okay? And Uranus made sure that it went down, okay? Because by that 29th degree being right on her Taurus rising, baby, that was like a lightning bolt, okay? Because that's what Uranus is. It's shocking. And so because of this, she is being asked to move beyond her comfort zone. It's time for her to be okay with embracing deep relationships, even if it leads to pain and betrayal sometimes. Sometimes you got to go through it just to get to it. You know what I mean? But just be smart about it. Now, I by all means am not suggesting that Meg go out here and date. Absolutely not. I want Meg to heal. She has been through so much, and I feel like her relationships that she's been in hasn't really given her an opportunity to really heal in the necessary way that she needs to. She's dealt with a lot of loss, and she hasn't really had time to deal with it because of her career. The type of losses that Meg has experienced takes serious counseling or just taking yourself on your very own spiritual journey. Something has to give, though. And definitely something has to heal. Now, Neptune showed her everything that she needed to see when it came to Klay, because Neptune was definitely square his stellium, okay? And I brought about all of the delusions of the false winning persona, as well as all of his sneaky motivations that he's had, okay? Now that I've had an opportunity to really go back over the video and really just kind of look at the transits and what they are saying, because the sky be talking to us. You just got to listen. Now, Klay is also going through his Jupiter return, which Jupiter is in its final degrees of Cancer. Now, this is lighting up his Chiron, so literally activates his wound of home, family, instability. This is that wound of belonging. And since Cancer and Capricorn are sister signs, so there was just a lot going on with that axis as well. Just know, on the day that everything went down, their charts was illuminated and very busy. When I named the video The Commitment Check, I really thought originally it was about Meg and Klay, but come to find out, this is really about Meg. And this is more about the commitment that she should be making to herself, about keeping her boundaries up and not allowing that extreme want of a family and foundation and security to drive her down a road of delusion and despair. You know, that day there was no escaping those transits. Even the fact that Lilith was in Sagittarius that day, that was literally transiting her 8th house, which deals with transformations, and it was in her Jupiter as well. This was just a lot. And honestly, on the last video, I was saying that Meg should really drop a new album, especially around August when, you know, we having that transit, that solar eclipse. I feel like that would be a hot time for her to drop an album. And baby, she got plenty of material to go with. Now, Cosmic Cousins, I'm sure there's probably some things that y'all caught, so just go ahead and drop that in the comments. Discuss, okay? And with that being said, y'all already know I have spilled so much tea and drunketh it, and I am full, okay? And I got to get out of here. Now, with that being said, Cosmic Cousins, so much for your viewership. I appreciate your likes and especially all my new subscribers. And I'm out.